All right, so last week we studied in our unit, the biodome unit, why did it run out of ESMs? And the big thing we were talking about last week was what did happen? We saw a major reason why it was running low on CO2, so we did different reasons to lower the CO2 count. Now, a lot of people said if you get rid of kill the consumers off, that'll get lower the CO2 levels, which is why we could run out of these ESMs, energy storage molecules. So we did a lab last week where we looked at the animal cells. We looked inside there. Now let's see this little reaction going on here. Notice it takes in the ESMs, it combines with oxygen. Oh, and that releases CO2. So if we go back to here, maybe there's something going on at the cellular level that's allowing them to increase or decrease the amount of CO2. What we can do to simulate this lab, we can look at yeast cells. Yeast cells do the same thing. They take in ESMs and oxygen and produce energy from that. So with our yeast cells, we have our yeast in here. We have our energy storage molecules here, sugar. So what we can do for a lab is we can take a test tube and then pour in 1 tablespoon. I take the tablespoon. I'm actually gonna move all my stuff over here. So to set up the lab, we have our consumers, our yeast, 1 tablespoon in here. Now, there's already oxygen in here based on what we saw in the sim. So now let's see if we give it some energy storage molecules, maybe give it like 1 tablespoon of sugar and see, might have taken and hit it. I got energy, I have our yeast, our consumers, which we can see at the cellular level, and we have our ESMs. Now what I'm gonna do is, with the sink, I'm actually gonna run it so we have hot water to help activate it. And what I've already done to speed up the time is I filled this graduate cylinder up to about 10 milliliters already. It's hot water from the sink. I pour it in here. Now to get it all mixed around, to get the reaction going, I'm gonna take this cap, I'm just gonna shake it around so it's all well mixed. And then, if it gives off a gas, CO2, I'm gonna shut off the water. Now we should see some sort of reaction to producing CO2 in the process, because what we see is yeast interacts with the ESMs and oxygen, and that produces energy. So we can measure as a response the amount of CO2 given off. How can we measure CO2? Well, a simple lab we can do. This one's done. This one I already prepped from before. Notice that there's some foam here. This is all foam. If we take a ruler, we can measure how high it was up. No, it's hard to see. When you're doing it yourselves, you can actually measure the CO2. So let's do a lab now. What factors affect CO2? The amount of CO2 given off. If it gives off more CO2, then we know it's giving off more CO2 to the environment. It's going through, it's producing, taking the ESMs and breaking it down.